The full range, one of our favourite sessions here at Jet Coaching. So after a short warm-up, the main session is 7 by 2 minute efforts with 2 minutes between each effort. And as the name suggests, the 2 minute efforts progress in intensity so that you work through your full range or the full spectrum of your intensities on the bike. And then we finish with some 10 to 15 minutes worth of smooth endurance riding, obviously in a pre-fatigue state. So starting with the warm-up, we've got 10 to 15 minutes nice and easy spinning, remembering that the focus or the purpose of a warm-up is to move blood and mobilize your muscles and joints, but also to prepare yourself mentally. Because of the nature of the main session, there's no pre-main for this particular set. So we get straight into the main set, which is 7 by 2 minutes with 2 minutes recovery. And the goal is to progress your effort from effort number 1 through to effort number 7. So if you're using zones, it's sort of the first effort is a zone 1 or the top of zone 1. Second effort is zone 2. Third effort is at that junction between zone 2 and zone 3. Effort number 4 is zone 3. Effort number 5 is the top of zone 3, so getting up towards your threshold and about 90%. Effort number 6 is zone 4, and then the final effort is zone 5. So if you're using an RPE, your keywords would be smooth, endurance, firm, steady, sub-threshold, strong, and very strong, respectively. And as a percentage of maximum, you're looking at 65 to 70, then 70 to 75, 75 to 80, 80 to 85, 85 to 90, 90 to 95, and then 95 plus. So truth be told, that final effort is close to your best effort. The key is to maintain your form and efficiency throughout the session, especially as it starts to catch up with you towards the back end of the set. Obviously those last 2 or 3 efforts are really strong riding, and obviously you're accumulating fatigue over the course of the main set. A few things to work on, making sure that you are stepping up. So common mistakes here are either going too easy early on and being overly conservative, and then the last 2 or 3 realizing that you've done so and just all of a sudden just ramping straight up. The flip side of that is to go out too hard too soon, and then you've got nowhere to go. So it really is about stepping up one by one and increasing your effort and the intensity as you progress through the session. So obviously if you're using heart rate as a bit of a guide, you'll be seeing that go up, and what we're looking at is the average for each 2 minute effort. That's probably where the best judge is, as opposed to the max for each of those efforts. Similar with if you're using power, there's probably going to be a bigger range difference in the first 2 or 3 compared to when we're tightening the screws at the other end in terms of your power outputs, but we want to see a steady increase in the power as you progress through from number 1 through to number 7. As I said before, you want to maintain your form and efficiency, so you want to stay on top of your pedaling mechanics, work on good posture, and relaxed, controlled breathing. So try not to hold too much tension, especially as you get towards the last few efforts. Then after those efforts, you finish with 10 to 15 minutes of smooth endurance riding. So it's back to 65 to 75%, so in that range, but you want to keep it nice and tidy, and you don't want to be forcing anything. So you might find your heart rate still remains elevated after that first effort, but you should settle in and find a rhythm and a sweet spot where the heart rate sort of evens out. So it's anywhere between that 65 to 70%. So in between probably the first and second efforts, so that's smooth endurance type riding. And the goal there is to work on good form, good posture on the bike, holding good mechanics, and holding your concentration as well. It's easy when you've done the main session, especially when it was difficult, to just simply switch off mentally and emotionally and not maximise your time on the trainer. So you want to make sure that you're doing that as well. Beauty of this session is it can be used all year round as well. It's good in the post-season and prep phase, just for getting a little bit of intensity in there, and again, just that practice with pacing and controlling that pace and having patience early on, but also being able to dig deep later on in the session. The interval lengths are obviously quite short, so they're manageable both physically and emotionally. But it can also be a good session if you're carrying some fatigue, like if you're in race season or you've done a heavy block, for example. It can be a good session to wake the body and brain up. For example, on a Tuesday through race season, or when you may have done a heavier weekend, because you're starting relatively controlled and relaxed, and it gives the body a chance to remove some of that fatigue and still be able to execute some quality later on in the session. If you're carrying some fatigue and you sort of get through the first few and you don't feel like the body's waking up, you can always scale it back to 5 by 2 minutes with 2 minutes in between, and not forcing yourself to dig too deep, and that's obviously your call to make, and decide whether that's necessary. Also, you can scale it for time, like if you're a little bit time crunched. The fullest version of this session is just over 1 hour, so if you do a 15-minute warm-up and then 15 minutes at the end, as well as a 7 by 2 minutes, it's just over an hour. The shortest version is about 45 to 50 minutes, so it's not an overly long session, but you can scale it back. And if you're scaling for time as opposed to fatigue, you can again, it's up for the individual in the particular set of circumstances, but you can maybe start at effort number 3, and build through from 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Obviously, if it's a combination of fatigue and time restraints, you're probably better off sticking to building from number 1 to number 5. So you're essentially staying aerobic for that version, and not really asking too much of yourself in the back end. So that's the session. It's called the full range. It's a little bit of fun. It's also a repeatable session. So obviously, as I said, it can be executed at any point throughout the season or throughout the year. But you will hopefully see that you're getting a little bit better as a general trend. The other beauty of this is there's going to be a little bit of discretion perhaps from each time that you execute the session. So that's why I always advise you doing this session, do it by feel, and use the data, so heart rate and or power, to help guide your execution. But you're trying to use those cue words, and think about what you're trying to do, which is progress from effort number 1 through to effort number 7, and you're just checking in and referring to the data to make sure that you're I guess your RPE and the physiology are aligned, but also making sure that you're aligned with the goal of the session. Enjoy.